As the sun rose over the trees, Valora and Sager came to the end of the dirt road. This is it. She pulled Quicksilver to a stop. We have no choice but to go into the trees from this point. She looked to Sager. Are you still sure you want to come with me? Yeah, I'm sure. Let's get this over with. He drew his sword as he walked toward the thick oak trees. Valorous followed, nudging Quicksilver's sides. The horse obeyed and walked after the giant into the shadows cast by the thick canopy of overgrown branches and vines. Small creatures, squirrels, and other rodents fled as they traveled through the forest, both keeping an eye out for anything bigger than a hawk or more threatening than a passing boar. We should be there within the next hour. Maybe sooner than that. I smell fire and meat. Sager looked ahead of them, fully expecting to find an encampment of those goblins from the night before. You might be right. I might have miscalculated, but we're almost there regardless. She rode on, keeping Quicksilver at the same pace Sager was walking. After a while, the trees started to thin out, and another path could be seen winding between a few of them. Here, follow this path, and we'll be at the gates. She smiled, glad to be almost back home. They followed the path, but after a few moments of utter silence, in which not even the birds sang, Valora pulled Quicksilver to a stop in front of Sager, holding up her hand in front of her. Wait a moment. Before she could finish the sentence, an arrow struck the tree nearest Sager's head, causing him to jump back with a snarl, now ready for a fight. Valora. Valora just smiled. Calm yourself and watch this. She turned Quicksilver toward the tree where she thought the arrow was shot from and called out in a loud voice. When children of the forest meet a stranger, they... She was answered by the voices of 3 children. Meet them with arrows. An elven boy, no more than 10 years old, leaped from the branches, bow in hand, with another arrow notched it. He wore leather armor over his small body and a quiver on his back. Valora, you're back. Who's he? The child studied the giant as a warrior would an opponent. A friend, Rolner. Who else is up there? She looked to the lower branches of the tree. Darunia and Linsa, he said. He smiled. We were out exploring and heard you coming. She looked back to the boy. I see. Call them down. He nodded, lowering the bow as he turned back to the tree. Hey, she said, come down here, he shouted. Fine. The voices of 2 young girls groaned. As they leapt down, it was clear they were twins. We were having fun. The 2 red-headed girls crossed their arms. They both had armor, leather, and quivers of their own. Their bows over their shoulders. They both smiled up to the other elf, the older elf. Hello, Valora. Welcome back. Sager was confused by all this. Kids. And they can use a bow. He looked down to the boy who Valor had called Rolner. Your aim is true, little one. Well met. He plucked the arrow from the tree and offered it back to its owner. Here, save your arrows, kid. Rolner, and thank you. He took the arrow, showing no fear of the behemoth in front of him. He's so tall. The twins smiled, looking up to his face as they walked behind Rolner. Sager chuckled. And you're so small, even compared to Valora. We're 10. The twins' smiles faded, but soon returned. We'll get bigger later. This gave the nomad an idea. How would you girls like to see how it is to be this tall? They looked to each other, then back at Sager. How? They both asked. By riding on my shoulders. I'll give you both a ride back to the village. Coming out of your shell, Sager? Valor asked, grinning. What happened to the hard-shelled man I met in the arena? What can I say? I have a soft spot for kids. Especially ones who can use weapons. He knelt down on one knee. Climb up, you two. All three children giggled as the twins each took a shoulder, swinging their legs out in front of him. Rolner, get on Quicksilver. Quicksilver? He looked to the horse. Oh! His eyes widened at the sight of the black and white horse. Wow, okay. He climbed up and mounted the beast in front of Valora. She nudged the horse with her heel and rode past the sparse few trees that were left behind the village entrance, followed by the giant of a man who now bore two elven girls on his shoulders as they cheered and talked about the view from up there. As they got to the gates, they saw there was no guard. So that hasn't changed. Valor frowned. We've got to find a way to fix that. Anything can wander into the village and run amok. She shook her head. A problem for another time, I'm afraid. Rolner nodded as they rode past the gate and into the cobblestone streets. Daily life in Hadenshire had came to a halt as they were seen by passerby. People stopped what they were doing, and a few called out, Valor has returned. While another few asked the question everyone was thinking about. Who's that with her? They gathered around Quicksilver, waiting for answers. Valor arose, her voice above those of the crowd. My friends, this is Sager, a new friend of mine. He is to be treated with respect. He is a strong warrior and deserves to be treated as such. She turned back to the giant with a smile. You can stay with me, or feel free to explore the village. There's an inn just down the street from here. You can find food, ale, and probably a woman. He knelt down once more, allowing the girls to jump off his shoulders. They ran down the streets, shouting their goodbyes. Sounds nice, but I have priorities first. I want to meet your mother and sister. Well, he might be out of the house, but I'll take you there. She turned her attention to Rolner. Go find your parents. I'm sure they'll like to know where you've been. She smiled. Okay. Bye, Valora. Bye, Sager. He climbed off the horse and ran after the girls. Valor dismounted Quicksilver, leading him by the reins through the village. Sager followed, his interest now piqued as his chance to meet those two elven women who... It was becoming closer with every moment. Passing. She led him through the village to a 2-story stone house that had smoke coming out from its chimney. You're in luck. My mother is home. Tinsy might not be, though. Tinsy, he chuckled. Teensy Tinsy. Don't call her that unless you want what happened with me to happen again. And what would that be? She'll floor you using your own weight against you. Oh, good tactic. Makes me want to meet her even more. Worse. Well then, come on. She took the reins of the horse and led it into the fence surrounding the house. Go on, baby. The horse snorted and started grazing. She walked to the house, knocking on the front door before opening it. Mom, I'm back, and I won, she announced, placing a hand on her overly full bag. Oh, that's wonderful, dear, came the voice of an older elven woman as she left the kitchen, walking into the front room. She was curvaceous in her leather cuirass and black pants. Her hair matched the shade of Valor's, but had been allowed to grow past her shoulders. I saw you coming through the window. Who's that giant outside? You should invite him inside. He's a friend of mine. His name is Sager. She turned back to the door. Come on in. She waved a hand. Sager ducked his head as he came inside to avoid hitting his head on the stone doorway. Hello, ma'am. He smiled. Hello. The woman smiled. Any friend of Valor's is a friend of mine. Lunch will be ready soon. You can stay if you like. I actually got a room at the inn, but thanks. That was a lie, but he did plan on getting one. Maybe a bit more later that night. Suit yourself. She walked back in the kitchen. I'm still cooking, so come in here and we can talk. Valor walked behind her, motioning for him to follow them. I have the prize money right here. I hope it helps us get this place fixed up. She smiled weakly as she opened the bag. 10,000 gold and notes, minus the cost of a room and that horse out front. Still over 9,000 left. She took a seat at the table, as did her mother. This is too much, Val. I can't take this from you. She shook her head, seeing the notes sticking out of the bag. We'll find another way to getting repairs done. Don't worry about it. But that was the entire reason I went to Calentier and competed. I know, but seeing you return champion, I can't take that prize away from you. Keep it. We'll find another way. She sighed. Mother, sometimes I don't understand you. She shook her head. But as you wish. Sager stood behind and had been silent as the two spoke to each other. Ma'am, I have a question. Yes? She looked to his face. Was it really you who trained Valor to fight like that? Yes, it was. She smiled proudly. Myself and her sister, Tinsy. Why do you ask? Because she is the only one to take me down since I trained as a child. It amazed me, and I wanted to know who taught her so well. He smiled to the woman. So she has you to thank. I see. Yes, I suppose you're right. But all the children of Hadenshire are trained in mostly the same way. Oh? He nodded.